Good morrow, godlings. Okay, I've been working under the assumption. Thanks for coming by. I've been working under the assumption that most people are like me about YouTube usage. That we come here to get information, sometimes entertainment, but that really it allows us to search through and find precisely the sort of information we're looking for to help us in our daily lives. And so what you really want being that, you don't want a bunch of high budget effects. So I've endeavored to just come in and give you perspective as I felt prompted whenever I did this. Now, I like appearing on other people's YouTube podcasts because they're established already, and that allows me to reach a wider audience than just my own following. But it occurs to me that the people who could really enjoy interviewing me and asking me questions are really you. You have specific needs and concerns that you'd probably be enthusiastic about asking me directly about. And I keep asking you folks to put them in the comments below so that I can make a video about them. But it occurs to me that perhaps you'd prefer a live interaction situation. And I don't really know how to do that because I'm not that well versed on how to make such things happen through Zoom or whatever hosting facility will allow me to hopefully see your faces, hear your voices. Anyway, so keep that in mind because what I'm considering doing is starting a regular live podcast that you can anticipate when it's going to be held so that you can tune in and get questions answered directly. You can ask me directly and get them answered. Now, I'm thinking Saturday mornings would be good for this, but because we could all be having coffee together, and it would be, the start of a new day and very fresh and a good way to start the day, etc. And I'm looking for feedback from you all. Pardon my dog yelling at her, growling at her balls right now. She's rounding up her toys. She's a border collie. They do that. So please, in the comments, let me know what day you think and what scenario would be best for doing this. And if you think it's a good idea at all, you may go, nah, that's really not going to fly, Callahan. So I look forward to your feedback on that. Now, briefly, I want to promise you ahead of time before we do this, I'm not going to use gimmicky names. I'm not going to use clickbait names. I'm not going to name things in a way designed to get you to look when the name of the video has very little to do with what I'm talking about. I'm not going to do that to you. I want a relationship with my viewers of candor, and I don't want to manipulate you because so much of the world out there is manipulating you. I just want to have an honest relationship with my viewers. So count on me to behave towards you and our relationship in an ethical way, in a spiritually conscious way, a loving way, loving to you, respectful to you and your time. Okay, and not dissemble to you. And if you see me straying off that, or you think you see me straying off that, please always bring it to my attention, okay? That's what real relationships are founded on. Candor and trust. Trust me to do better with candid feedback, all right? Because I cherish you. Now, I do want to talk to you briefly about guilt and self-talk and shame and how that's really destructive to you. I have had in my past a terrible temper to wrestle with. It's not that, it's more of a sudden reactiveness because of trauma, PTSD, my body responds very quickly, and I can smack someone if they startle me without meaning to. And I've always just felt horrible about this. As a child, it was much worse. I had a really what I considered reprehensible temper. It wasn't cutting myself much slack either for what I had been through, trauma-wise, that had created it. And we need to understand that we don't develop these problems or these patterns, these challenges, which are really opportunities to become more lucid in order to learn to control them. We don't develop them because we've been nice to ourselves or anybody else has been nice to us. We develop them because we've suffered because of someone else's unconscious behavior, usually. Our own unconscious behavior makes it worse and perpetuates it. So when I realized I had this challenge, this opportunity, I began to be very observant of it and of the changes in my subjective experience leading up to what I called a loss of temper. I don't believe in the concept of loss of temper. What has happened is you have an unconsciously defined threshold where you say, beyond this, I'm just not going to tolerate it. That's enough. Okay, right? This is beyond this. I'm gonna go upside somebody's head. Okay. That is an arbitrary designation of when enough is enough. And honestly, enough is much lower than that. It takes you should be walking away from situations where people are not being kind to you, not being respectful, long before you're ever angry. You should be giving the feedback that is required to be lovingly assertive early on before you ever get triggered, so that people know where your healthy boundaries are. You can hardly blame them if they're used to pushing you in certain ways and you've never shown them where the boundary is of what you expect, the kind of treatment you expect, and you just let them, push your limits without giving them that feedback. So you need to assert way before you're anywhere near your loss of control, which is, again, really just a giving away of control. You're just surrendering to the wrath. All right? This is a coping mechanism, part of a skill set. You're doing the best you can with the skill set you have and have had. You've been doing the best you can, best you could. But you need some new additions to your skill set. And one is asserting early and often, all right? Because not everybody in the world, in fact, very few people in the world are conscious. They're very unconscious, and they're just pushing their limits, not even aware they're pushing their limits a lot of the time with other people. So you need to help them be aware of where your limits are so that you can interact in a healthy way. You're helping them as much as you're helping yourself by doing this, all right? So new skill number 1, assert early and often. Back people off before they ever get anywhere near actually aggravating you. Stay as much as possible conscious, observing your own growing ire, your own growing distress at the behavior. Don't fall into being that distress, be the observer of it, because you're learning to control this set of biological responses to pain being re-triggered from your past in the present tense. You're learning to control this, and in order to do that, you have to observe it happening. You will find there are perceptual changes and bodily functioning changes that happen that signal to you that your body, which has been traumatized, is reaching a threshold of reactivity that will make it more difficult for you to stay conscious. Okay. When someone is really pushing your buttons, and we all have people in our lives who do that, and some of them do it unconsciously but more or less intentionally. By unconscious and intentional, I mean they're intentionally do it, but they're intentionally doing it, but they are actually unconscious of the negative repercussions and how it doesn't serve anyone, themselves included. So we all have those people in our lives, and sometimes they just seem to be looking to pick a fight, they're pressing all the buttons, okay? When a person is not being kind and level-headed, not being rational, not being self-disciplined, not being actually productive to the situation, not being helpful, there are good things you can learn to say to assert your space and to make it stop, so that you have an opportunity, as your wrath response begins to rise, to short circuit it by changing the situation, okay? The first one is saying to the person, I can't really be as constructive right now as I would like to be about this issue, so we're going to stop talking, and we'll circle back to it later when I can be as constructive and gentle as I want to be. Something along these lines. You're basically asserting, without being rude, you're basically asserting, I'm done talking about this right now. I'm done being talked to about this right now. Okay, you have the right to say that. If you notice your wrath levels are rising, I don't care who the person is or how much you love them. Often the people we love are the ones who push us the hardest, because they're used to taking liberties with our personal boundaries. So it's all right, it's perfectly good, in fact, for you to say, as a matter of fact, it's respecting of yourself and them to not let the situation get out of hand by saying instead, nicely, I can't really be constructive about this right now, or I can't be as constructive as I'd like. Let's circle back and talk about this later when I'm feeling more level-headed. However you want to word it, in a way that is not accusatory to them in any way at all, but takes ownership over your own emotional and mental space, okay? Don't try and offload it on somebody else. You're triggering, blah, blah, blah. It's not about them, it's about you, okay? So put it back on you and say, because nobody else is going to help you learn to control these behaviors. You have to learn to do it. So give it back to yourself. You're also giving yourself, realize when you take responsibility, you're giving yourself the power too. Because if you say, it's not my fault, what you're saying is I have no power over it. So in order to avoid blame, you're disowning your power. So you don't want to do that. You want to take your power and claim, therefore, your responsibility and your ability to handle the situation. So that's another thing you can do. And if the person continues to push you, you can invite them to leave and come back later. And when things are, or tell them that you'll get in touch with them when you're feeling like you can be constructive. You've had a chance to think through it and decide how you feel, okay? Or you can walk away from them. If this is somebody who lives with you, whatever, you can walk away from them. You can say, look, I'm gonna retreat right now and go take a walk and settle my senses, and we'll circle back and handle this later. These are skills things you are allowed to do, not just allowed, but it's good for you and it's good for them. Okay, so please make use of creating space for yourself when you're starting to feel emotionally triggered. You want to create space for yourself where you can withdraw and observe your self-talk. Observe the self-talk that is going on that is generating the emotions, because it is never what's happening around you, okay, that is upsetting you. It is what you are saying to yourself unconsciously about that situation that is setting off the difficult emotions. Okay, so get yourself some space so that you can work in quiet with yourself, being kind to yourself, not beating yourself up, because after all, that's how you developed this cachet of anger, that this angry self-talk that you're learning to control. So create that space and then observe it. Ask yourself what exactly you're saying to yourself in the emotion. What is this emotion saying? Now, usually when you do this, you're going to, when you finally get it into exactly the right words, you're going to know that you know that you know. It's going to click. You're going to feel comfortable with it. Yes, that's it indeed, you'll say, basically. And a funny thing usually happens right about then. Usually the emotion is revealed, the self-talk is revealed to be completely untrue, or very mostly untrue. And it's not fair, usually, to yourself and everyone else. It's pretty one-sided. And it's not serving you. And the minute you observe these things, the instant you observe these things, a very interesting thing happens. All of the emotion drains out of the self-talk, because the emotion is your energy which you gave to the self-talk by believing the self-talk. The self-talk had all its power over your emotional response in your body, in your spirit. It had all of its power it got from you believing in the self-talk. And the moment you, the witnessing consciousness, see that it is not true and it's not serving you, it loses its power, because its power is your power. You gave it that power to have that effect on you. And so the emotion quits. It begins to wind down right away, and you can feel it happening. There's a relief and a release in your body, okay? It may be subtle at first, but it depends on how big the emotions are. You want to ride that. You want to continue to do the self-inquiry. What am I saying to myself? What's in this self-talk? Is that self-talk true? Is it fair? Is it serving me? This actually will return the power that you gave that self-talk to affect you emotionally come back to you. All right, and you're going to notice this. And this is going to cause a shift and a brightening of your lucidity, a shift in your identification. You're no longer sleeping in identification with the grievance, the self-talk, the guilt, the anger. You're not in identification with that. You're not carrying it as a part of your identity. You are observing it as a behavior set, okay? So you're going to give yourself the nurturing that someone else was not prepared to give to you at the time when you needed it, to start your life the right way, because most of this is carryover from our childhoods. So I want you to realize that guilt in no way, and shame and beating yourself up in no way serves you. It is self-talk that is not fair to you, because it is not recognizing that you are doing the best you can with the skills you have. You just need more skills to know how to handle these situations better, and nobody has showed them to you before. No one has taught them to you before, okay? So you need to let yourself off the hook and simply focus on assimilating and using the new skills. And you're going to find that people are going to react to you oddly, that are used to you being a certain set of ways. They're going to react to you oddly because you're not showing up anymore as the self they expect you to be. And that is perfectly fine. They may be uncomfortable with it, and that's all right too. They'll get used to the new you. So please don't beat yourself up. You cannot forgive everyone else if you're holding your own feet to the fire. You may try, but it won't happen. You'll be secreting a grievance that you're extending this loving forgiveness, this allowance to everyone else and not to yourself. Neither can you forgive yourself if you're not letting everyone else off the hook. So just let everyone off the hook simultaneously. Everyone's doing the best they can with the skill set they have at the time, yourself included. And that being so, none of that guilty or self-shaming talk is serving anyone at all, because it makes you less in contact with the loving, less centered in the loving, lucid being that you want to give to the world, the way you want to interact with the world, making it better. We all want that. We all want that. Okay? Nobody Even the vilest of villains isn't going around thinking, I want everyone to suffer and make things worse. Not really. They don't want to see necessarily other people suffer for the sake of that itself. It's actually helping them feel less isolated in their own suffering when others are suffering too. It's the expression, misery loves company, again. We'll see that. We have seen that a lot in the world. So, misery shouldn't love company, and consciousness of misery, being conscious of it, observing it, and observing the feelings we all really, if we're honest with ourselves, we want everyone to be loved and happy and well taken care of. We want us all to be comfortable. We want us all to be loved and cared for. We don't want to exclude other people from that. That's underneath it all. Underneath all of that deranged self-talk and mistaken motivations that come out of the self-talk that is deranged because it's been unconscious. Underneath all of that, there is love. That is what you are. In fact, you have one true emotion. One, and that is love. It is what you are. All the other emotions are love, you telling yourself some sort of story about love being abandoned, love being unseen, love being unrewarded, etc., betrayed, cheated on, whatever. Those are all stories. Underneath it all, the truth of what you are is love. So give that to yourself, which makes you a more open conduit to modeling it for the world and hence helping others experience that too. Let everyone off the hook. There are two ways to forgive. In the earth venue, we forgive by simply suspending our judgment and releasing our grievances. We just say, it doesn't matter. It's actually making me sick or unhappy to continue in that grievance with that self-talk. I'm not going to feed that any more of my attention and my energy because it's not healthy for me and it's not making me happy. It's not doing anyone any good. That's forgiveness in earth venue. Forgiveness that transcends all venues says nothing really happened. There's nothing to forgive because nothing really happened. All of this, there's nobody here but you, and that includes me. All of this is one being, fractured into the 10,000 things in a dream. There are no bad guys. There are no good guys. Everybody here is here to play a role, to put you through experiences and themselves through experiences that brightens their lucidity so that they suffer until they brighten their lucidity. And the point of that brightened lucidity is the will that is holy, the great work, the realization of every sentient being in the venue becoming lucid. The world is a prank we are playing on ourselves and at which we have forgotten to laugh. With our self-talk, we create a world. With our labels, our judgments, and our expectations, we create a world that is miserable and unsatisfying. That's what we've done. And then we blame the world we made for our unhappiness. That's the joke. That's the cosmic jest. Because none of this can happen to you. You are a godling. None of what's happening here. The feeling of being captive of a world, the feeling of being oppressed, the feeling of being not free, none of that can happen. You're a godling. But you're sleeping in identification with the character, the story, the body, the mind that is attacking your peace. You are the consciousness in which all of that unfolds. You encompass all of those things. They are phenomena. They are phenomena within your experience. It's already accomplished, the will that is holy. We are just experiencing moment by moment the timelines that come together in a collage, a jigsaw puzzle, to which none of us have the box top. So we don't quite know individually how to assemble it. That's because your greatest opportunity is always in doing exactly the thing that frightens you or which the environment most challenges you to do. This environment teaches us to compete, to defend spiritual turf, to defend business turf, whatever. The test, the challenge, the opportunity is to go towards exactly the thing the venue teaches us not to do. We have to cooperate, because none of us are the full puzzle. Well, we are the full puzzle, but we don't know how to put it together. The full puzzle is holographically in each one of us, but we're identified with a sliver of it we call our persona, our character, our identity. We're unlucid in our identification with that sliver, that story. We have to cooperate. We have to do exactly what the venue discourages us from doing. Cooperate instead of competing, in order to ring in the accomplishment of the great work and the will that is holy. When it happens, how it happens, is fluid, can happen any moment. It's all dependent on us moving toward doing exactly what the venue discourages us from doing, cooperating. So I invite you to please leave comments, like the video, subscribe, send friends, and above all, talk to me about when you would like to do these live get-togethers, so you can ask me questions yourself. Maybe I can help you as I would in a one-on-one session. I won't be able to give you the huge amount of time that I give people in one-on-one sessions, but I'll be able to give you some pointers and answer more questions in the comments later as you present them to me. So think about that, and please let me know in the comments what you think. Also, subjects you'd like me to cover in little videos like this one, please bring them to my attention. I've decided you are the best people to interview me. You're the ones I came back to help. So please, fire at will. I'm anxious to get your questions and to help you. I love you all. Happy 2025. Let's make it the best year yet. The year lucidity takes over the world, because we have consistently together put out the little I in favor of creating the greater we. Bye for now.